Hello friends, how are you? So in this video, I am going to tell you about the types of rainfall. Now you know that rainfall is a very prominent feature of weather and we have to know that what are the different types of rainfall and how it takes place. Before going to the rainfall, I am going to tell you about the definition of the precipitation because rainfall is also a type of precipitation. What is precipitation actually? It is the process by which the condensed water vapor falls to the ground in various forms like rainfall, snowfall, dew, hail, etc. First, the evaporation takes place from the land and water surface due to the presence of heat, and the convectional current is vertical current. It goes to the upper layer of the atmosphere in high altitude and it comes in contact with the cold air, and that's why the condensation takes place. And due to the condensation, the water vapor turns into water drops, and when the water drops grow bigger, it forms the cloud and becomes heavy. As soon as it becomes heavy, it comes down to the ground due to the gravity of the earth. And these forms of precipitation are of different types. Rainfall is one type of precipitation. Now there are mainly three types of precipitation, three classification of precipitation. Those are the convectional rainfall. Actually these are the three types of rainfall: convectional rainfall, orographic rainfall, cyclonic rainfall, or frontal rainfall. So now we will see that how the convectional rainfall takes place. See, this is the diagram of the convectional rainfall. Now, during the day, what happens from the water surface as well as from land surface, the heavy evaporation takes place. Why the heavy evaporation takes place? Because of heat, because of the presence of heat and the moisture. Moisture is also present in the water surface as well as land surface. So, due to the evaporation from the water surface and the land surface, a vertical current of convectional current or the vertical current is formed, and the hot and humid air, which is actually the water vapor, goes up and comes in contact with the high altitude. In the high altitude, it comes in contact with the cold air. Now, as soon as the hot and humid air comes in contact with the cold air in the high altitude, then the condensation process starts. And due to the condensation process, what happens? The water vapor, which was in the vaporized form, turns into the water droplets. And the water droplets, one by one, gather together and forms the cloud. And when the clouds become bigger and heavier, it cannot float in the high atmospheric level. Then due to the gravitational force of the earth, the cloud breaks off and it cannot contain the moisture anymore because it has already become very heavy, and due to the saturation of air, the air is also full of moisture, and due to the sudden drop of temperature in the high altitude, the heavy precipitation starts in the form of rainfall. So in the form of rainfall, mainly in the equatorial region, heavy rainfall occurs during the afternoon time, and this special rainfall is named as the convectional rainfall, which is mostly prevalent in the equatorial region and is also termed as 2 p.m. rainfall or 4 p.m. rainfall. And the cold air, which was occupying in the high altitude region, now once the vertical current goes up, so naturally the ground level, it becomes empty, and the cold air, it comes to the lower surface of the atmosphere and occupy the empty region, and again it gets heated and again the vertical current is formed. So this is the cycle how the convectional rainfall takes place. Now we will go to the orographic rainfall. Let's see how the orographic rainfall takes place. This is the diagram of the orographic rainfall. you see that due to the presence of any mountain or high hill or any high land surface like very high plateau also, what happens that the moisture carrying wind which is coming over the sea or ocean or a very broad water surface, it carries the moisture with it and it proceeds towards the mountain, then almost in the right angle, and then it hits the mountain slope. The mountain slope which is struck by the moisture carrying wind is known as the windward slope. That means here in this diagram, this is the windward slope and the moisture laden wind is coming from over the water surface, coming in the right angle direction, proceeding towards the mountain, gets struck by the mountain, and due to this thrust it goes upward in the high altitude. As soon as the vertical current comes in the high altitude, then what happens? Then again the condensation takes place, and due to the condensation, the water vapor which was in the moisture laden wind, that water vapor turns into water droplets and forms the cloud. Cloud becomes heavy, cannot contain the moisture in it anymore, and that's why heavy rainfall occurs in the windward side of the mountain. So the direction from which the moisture laden wind is coming towards the windward slope, that portion of the mountain or that slope of the mountain gets very heavy rainfall. This is known as the windward slope. But after a heavy rainfall, when the moisture laden wind has almost exhausted its moisture and it processes towards the opposite slope of the mountain, then the rainfall becomes very less because the moisture is already exhausted in the windward slope due to the very heavy rainfall, and then almost the dry wind that goes to the opposite slope of the mountain, and this opposite slope of the mountain receives very less rainfall, and this opposite side of the mountain is known as the leeward slope or the rain shadow region. In India, the western slope of Western Ghat mountain is the windward slope, and over there above 200 centimeter rainfall takes place, whereas the Deccan Plateau region is the leeward slope of the Western Ghat mountain, and for that reason in the Deccan Plateau region 60 to 70 centimeter average rainfall takes place. So let's go to the cyclonic rainfall then. Let's see how the cyclonic or frontal rainfall takes place. Cyclonic or frontal rainfall takes place when the two masses of air of different density and different temperature proceeds towards each other from opposite direction. Follow the diagram. The cold front of air mass proceeding towards from this direction to there, and the warm front of air mass is proceeding from the opposite direction. Now this is the diagonal surface where the two mass of air collide with each other, and due to the collision the warm air goes above in the high atmospheric altitude and comes in contact with the cold air. Heavy condensation occurs. Due to the condensation, the water vapor turns into the water drop. The formation of cloud occurs, and as soon as the cloud becomes very heavy and the air becomes saturated, it cannot contain the moisture anymore in the cloud, and it comes back due to the gravitation over the ground as rainfall. Then heavy rainfall occurs. Now here in this type of rainfall, in the cyclonic rainfall, the main feature is the collision of warm air and the cold air from opposite direction and they collide in the diagonal front, and this is known as the cyclonic or frontal rainfall. And this type of rainfall it is consisted of slow drizzle for 1-2 days, or sometimes it may continue to 3 to 4 days. Generally in the coastal areas, this type of rainfall is very much prevalent. Okay, in India, if you take the example of India also, in the coastal areas of Bay of Bengal, this type of tropical cyclones are very much common. So now we will go to the slide for more details. Now we will see the slide for the types of rainfall. What is precipitation? Precipitation is the process by which the condensed water vapor falls to the ground in various forms such as rainfall, snowfall, dew, hail, etc. There are three main types of rainfall: convectional rainfall, orographic rainfall, cyclonic or frontal rainfall. What is convectional rainfall? Convectional rainfall occurs when the energy of the sun or insolation heats up the surface of the earth, causing water to evaporate to form the water vapor. When the land heats up, it warms up the air above it, and this causes the air to expand and rise. As the air rises, it cools and condenses. The warm, moist air then rises and gets cooled gradually due to condensation. The air reaches a point called the condensation level, where it cools to such an extent that the water vapor condenses and turns back to a liquid form as rain. See the slide. The warm air, due to the presence of heat, it goes above and comes in contact with the cold air and forms the cloud. And when the clouds become very heavy due to the gravitational pull, the rainfall occurs and rainfall comes down over the ground. This is known as convectional rainfall. Next is the orographic rainfall. The oro here means the mountain, and the presence of mountain is a major factor for the orographic rainfall. This orographic rainfall is produced due to the collision of moisture-laden wind with the mountain slope. As the air rises and cools, the orographic clouds form and serve as the source of precipitation, most of which falls upwind of the mountain, that means windward slope of the mountain slope, and some also fall short distances downwind of the ridge and is sometimes called the spillover. Here the spillover rainfall or the rest of the very small rainfall takes place in the rain shadow region, that is the opposite slope of the windward side. As it keeps rising with the terrain, the drops get bigger and bigger until they come down as rainfall, and this bigger rainfall always takes place in the windward side. So windward side always gets heavy rainfall, but the leeward side or the rain shadow region gets very low rainfall. Next is the frontal or cyclonic rainfall. It is caused by cyclonic activity and it occurs along the fronts of the cyclone. This rainfall occurs when a warm tropical air mass comes in contact with a cold polar air mass, and it is very common in Britain and Ireland. It is formed when two masses of air of different temperature, humidity and density meets each other. A layer separating them is called the front. This front has two parts, the warm front and the cold front. At the warm front, the warm lighter wind rises gently over the heavier cold air, which being heavy stays close to the ground. So the cold air always stays to the ground because it is heavy. The air is cooled, the warm air which goes above the atmospheric layer in high altitude, it gets cooled and so condenses to form the stratus cloud. Frontal rainfall occurs when two air masses meet, one warm air mass and one the cold air mass. The lighter, less dense warm air is forced to rise over the denser cold air. This causes the warm air to cool and begin to condense. As the warm air is forced to rise, further condensation occurs and rain is formed. This is called the frontal rainfall. Now, on basis of different types of rainfall, the amount of rainfall, we can classify the different zones, rainfall zones. Heavy rainfall, where the rainfall is above 2000 millimeter of annual average rainfall, and generally these are located in the coastal areas or in the windward slope of the mountain. Moderate rainfall, this includes the areas which receives the rainfall between 1000 millimeter to 2000 millimeter of annual rainfall. Some coastal areas and the warm temperate zone also receive moderate amount of rainfall. Inadequate rainfall zone, these areas receive 500 millimeter to 1000 millimeter rainfall. The central parts of the tropical lands, eastern and interior parts of temperate lands are included in this category. And the low rainfall zone, these are the areas having less than 500 millimeter rainfall and are known as areas of low rainfall. Areas lying in the rain shadows and the interior of the continents and high latitudes also receive low rainfall of less than 500 millimeter per annum. Here you can see the world map which is shown in different zones with different colors as the rainfall zones, where the total annual rainfall has been shown. The green color, the dark green color and the fade green color, they are the rainfall zones which are actually the higher rainfall zone. Here in this map, the dark green color, it is above 4000 millimeter rainfall, and as the color fades, the rainfall also becomes low. Okay, and there is a index has been given. So if you follow the index, you can understand about the rainfall range. Thank you all.